So my name's Dave Giles-Kaye. So I'm the CEO of the Council of Textile Fashion. People who haven't come across us would probably know us as the TFIA. We've rebranded ourselves this year, actually gone back to our original name, or our actual name, the Council of Textile Fashion. We're a collaborative body of industry partners, so businesses within the textile fashion industries in Australia. We're here to promote the growth of the industry, and we do that around 5 areas of focus. One is around supply chains, which is local offshore supply chains, strengthening those, making sure that we're as best practice as we possibly can be in both areas. Another one is around ethical practice. So anything to do with ethics and sustainability in product that is made in our industry. Third area is around startups, often neglected in an industry. We see, and this is one of the reasons for panels like this, that the startups, the emerging businesses, the sub-5-year businesses are absolutely critical for the future of our industry. That's pretty obvious to say, but often startups and emerging businesses are neglected, so that's another area that we focus on. Innovation is the 4th area, and that's again a reason that we're here with this panel today, and that's obviously around making value out of new things, new ideas and new ways of doing things. And then the final one is around growing export. The way that we will grow our industry in Australia the most is not only by growing the industry here, but growing how we export. And we haven't really been very good at that in the years gone by, and we know that we can be a lot better. So that's a little bit about us. It's great that you're all here. Before I introduce the panel, can I just get a bit of a feeling for who is here? So who is in the fashion industry in one form or another already? So most, 2/3, maybe a little bit more. Who's in small business in fashion? Yeah, so quite a few. Big, medium to bigger businesses? So, yep, a couple. Education, I can see some people from education in the industry. Yep. Any other groups that I've missed? People who are just interested in fashion? Great. Okay, it's great to have you all here, and so hopefully this is a really valuable session for you. So I'll just introduce our panel, just briefly, and then I'll get them to introduce themselves afterwards. We have Cassandra and Louise from Chorus, and they've got a really interesting story to tell around how they've come about their unique business model in Chorus. We have Sarah Connor from Sarah Connor, accessories, handbag and accessories business, and also everyone has interesting stories. We have Condilis from Nobody Denim, and we'll hear about that. And then Layton, who formerly of the Ark, but I think the Ark's very much still part of her, obviously, but has recently moved on from the Ark. But Louise and Cassandra, would you, between you, be able to just give a couple of minutes introduction to who you guys are and what the Chorus is?
Do I need to have the mic? Or?
You don't have to, but...
Can you hear me without the mic? Yeah, I prefer to have the mic. So we're a women's wear high-end ready-made women's wear business, and we focus on what we call elevated workwear, so clothes that professional women can wear to work. And we started our business like most young design graduates do, although having had 10 years in the industry before, but just blindly starting a kind of 2 collections a year type thing. We wanted to make seasonal collections and sell direct to market, but we quite quickly got sucked into the cyclical fashion system. We got a PR agent, and that forced us to go into kind of seasonal churn. And we did that for a few years and realised quite quickly that it wasn't sustainable, and that we were making a lot of the mistakes that most startups make in that we were producing stock that we then had to shift, and we got kind of sucked into this markdown cycle that we couldn't do before to sustain. So we very recently changed our business model, and we are now doing monthly editions. So we release an outfit each month, and it's made to order. So we no longer create stock. We open a style with a few weeks, and you order it, and then we go and produce it. So it's a much more sustainable system for us, and we're offering very limited edition product with the option of customising for fit. So yeah, we've kind of completely changed our business model recently.
Anything briefly about maybe where you guys both come from personally?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally merchandiser by trade. I worked in the retail industry, various Australian and overseas retailers as a merchandising manager in the end from Info. So I worked for very large businesses. Cass came from fashion design. Studied on MIT, masters overseas, worked overseas for brands short Victor and Rolf, and in Australia there are brands like Country Road and smaller independent labels, so I had experience across all different, I guess, design roles. And yeah, we always been best friends since year 11 and knew that we wanted to start a business at some point together in some way. And Cass had returned from overseas and I happened to be on maternity leave and thought that it would be a good idea to start a business having just had a child. So
I knew it was now or never. I was like,
not the greatest idea, but it is what it is. Yeah, that's when we started. So.
Can everyone hear at the back? Is it? No, we need to. So we do need to use the mic. So anyway, we'll come back to you guys obviously as we go through. Thanks for that. Sarah, just a little bit of you and.
I reckon I'm louder than those girls, so I'm going to try it without it. So I probably have worked in the accessories side of fashion. I've never worked in apparel at all. For about over 20 years, someone reminded me a while ago. But like these guys, I started a business out of just my passion for what I did and got sucked into the wholesale, PR, seasonal cycle and churning it out. And again, tried to change my business so it worked better. Cash flow for sustainability, so I went back to actually liking what I did and liking the fact that I spend my life making bags. So rather than just let you guys do the monthly one, I tend to do a really small core range of products that just, I've been doing some of them for nearly 10 years now. And then there's limited editions every month and made to measure as well. So it's just made it a much nicer business to work in, and just meant that I've been able to sustain it and keep it really small and handmade based as well. So part of my business story is that I actually went out there and learned how to make bags and hung around factories and went overseas to Italy and did that. So that's allowed me to get back to actually sitting at that machine and cutting things out and hammering the bits and dyeing them, and the bit that I love about what I do. And recently I've also started working with other small labels that want to start making bags, and because there's nowhere to learn how to make bags in Australia, and not many people that, like if you go to get your specs, your tech patents done, which I'm sure lots of people know what they are. Everyone works in clothing and apparel, so I'm sort of working with those small labels to help them understand what a tech patent is and how to work with the factory and how to actually get bags made. So there's quite a few different aspects to the business.
Thank you. Thanks. John.
Good afternoon all. John from Nobody Denim. It's a family-owned business, been around since the late 1990s. Been involved in denim for over 30 years. So Dad was involved and was a service provider back in the 80s and 90s to all the big players, the Country Roads, the Lees, the Just Jeans, the Wranglers, the Targets. And obviously through that time we saw the writing on the wall that everyone was going to move offshore. So we decided to do what we thought or what we loved. And we were quite passionate about denim. So we've been going for approximately 18 years now. And we started off with a team of 4 people. So we've currently got about 60. So everything's locally made. We've got our own facilities. So anything that's denim, any denim garments is actually produced in our own factories. So from concept right through distribution. And we work with some partners externally, contractors, who make some of our apparel stuff. So we've had many challenges over the last probably 10 years, and ups and downs, but there is opportunities moving forward, and there's some great light at the end of the tunnel.
Thanks, John. Jenny?
Well, I had started a business with, sorry, I've got a little bit of a cold, so I'm sorry. Yeah, very close. Okay, so I started with Chris Metcalf and we started doing Flinders Market. So we had made kids' clothes, and then graduated through to party plan, and then eventually through to retail, and then eventually through to wholesale and retail, and then wholesale, retail and online with the art. And we at all times just loved being made in Australia. So the art just slowly grew and morphed as it went along, with no real agenda other than to survive and have another good year. And so eventually we have just recently sold the art to our general manager, so it's in great hands, which is good. But some of the philanthropic projects that we supported through our growth, which was very important to us, they've sort of become more of our major focus now. So we're starting to connect a few different groups that we worked with and sort of build some value for them, and take that a little bit further. So sort of network a little bit more across globally with different little groups, and yeah, that's sort of the next part of the journey for us. So it's been, yeah, it's an ongoing journey.
So we'll also have an open question and answer session towards the end of this. So if you have questions, jot them down and bring them up down the track. So I thought it would be good just to start around what is innovation, and before we get too much into how it's been applied in your businesses and in the industry. So you know, we've heard a lot in the last few months, you know, election campaign, and you know, the year or so prior, and Christopher Pine and Malcolm Turnbull talking about innovation. Well, what do you guys see as innovation? How would you define it, and what kinds of innovation do you see within our industry? What types those would be? John, you're looking at this. Do you want to start?
Innovation is a funny word. It's how you interpret it. I mean, in my view, in my business, it actually can go through culture. Innovate the type of culture that you have within your organisation, the type of technology, the type of product. It's driven through the market needs and being able to be flexible and adapt to what's happening in the market and what's required out there. Within our business, what we tend to do is let everyone innovate, however it might be. Yeah, we find that having that flexibility to do so and allowing people, empowering our employees and everyone that we work with to actually innovate in their own way gives us the opportunity to think outside the square. So that's something that's our interpretation. I don't think you can actually define it and pigeonhole what innovation means into one thing or one product.
Sandy?
I suppose for us it was about not being afraid to change and not being worried about what that would mean for how we were established. So being responsive to the conditions we were facing within the market, and not being afraid to be the first person to do something. So just doing it and trying it. So I think in terms of, yeah, for us that's definitely what it is. Just being a bit brave and accepting that you have to change. If something's not working, there's no point continuing. You've got to find a new way forwards. And you know, I think we're still totally finding that. I'm not saying that we found it, but for us, just being brave, and I can even see for us going forwards, that's something that I'm really mindful, having made one big change within the business structure, that we're going to have to continually adapt and change. So for me, I suppose innovation might change. So
on your business model,
yes.
Which is an innovative business model, could you guys just explain a little bit more about that and how innovation had a part in, you know, or how you'd see that as innovative, and maybe also touching on how planned it was or not. And
kind of unplanned, and I don't think we label it innovative. I think the press and people around us have said it's innovative, and I think they use that word because we're the ones they can't see many other people doing it, so they give it that title. I think for us it was like practical, perhaps, you know, as a change. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. We were obviously looking at our circumstances as a business and figuring out how we could move forward and how we could still have our label, and breaking it down into really small, manageable chunks, because we both had limited time. Cass is also doing a PhD, so I think that brought up some really good challenges and really made us look at where we were and answer some hard questions and work out, okay, well, how can we continue to go forward? And I guess it's been, for Cass and PhD, it's been a really full-on way of doing a business plan that we probably should have done, you know, a couple of years ago. Yeah. So, and for us, it's all about experimentation and not being afraid to try something, and then if that doesn't work, then we can, you know, try and something else.
So it's really, so the model is really around, as you explained earlier, around one outfit per month.
Yeah, so we've gone from doing the, you know, kind of standard local, you know, whatever, 30 garments per collection to just delivering one outfit a month and only made to order. So we release the outfit and we take orders and then we produce those orders. So it's really about that way. Also, through my research, I've been looking a lot into, I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm going to bring it up later, but social media and its effects. And we really felt like we had a lack of newness. If you do 2 collections a year, you've got one image. I think. So yeah, a lot of designers talk about us only having this sort of 1 or 2 images to talk about a year. And in this world we live in now, people want newness all the time. But how does a really tiny scale business constantly deliver newness without investing too much time and energy? And for us, this is a way that, you know, if we don't sell that style, then all we've wasted is, or all we've done is develop one sample and shot it and produce it online. So there's, you know, a couple of $100 going into it, not several thousand, and then having to move the stock. So it's a way for us to continually change and test, and I think it's a great method for finding our customer properly, which I think we, as many young businesses, haven't really totally nailed that yet. It's a good way for us to experiment with that as well.
Yeah. Thanks. Sarah, you know, innovation and how it's been part of, how would you describe the types of innovation that you've had in your business?
Well, I think so much of my innovation is kind of like you guys, it's born out of necessity and that need to change and realise that the way it's done in fashion doesn't really work in a very small business kind of area anymore. It's too draining financially and on all of your resources. So it was born out of that, needing to find different ways to do it. And I suppose for me, innovation isn't really about the product or the make. I deliberately make bags the way they've been made since sewing machines were invented. So it's much more about the way I sell and the way I approach customers and the way I get my product out there, which is probably radically different than the maybe 12 years ago that this business started to operate, which there were almost no options but to do it very traditionally or open a store. But now there's just so many ways that you can experiment with that, getting smaller amounts of product out there and using different ways to meet your customer. So it's probably about the way I approach customers more than it is about product innovation for me.
Well, I think innovation is a bit like going to the pantry and you've got to produce a meal and you're not sure what you're going to produce when you get there. So you've got some ingredients and you've got to make it work. So for me, the innovation for Chris and I, we put $200 each on the table. That was always snuck out of the housekeeping, I think, at the time. And then we decided we'd do something. So a couple of things, I think money, a shortness of money is always a fabulous motivator for innovation. We never borrowed a cent to build our business, and it's amazing how innovative one gets when one hasn't got any dollars. But you really love what you're doing, so you try and crack a code almost of how do you, how can you get other people interested in it because you think they'd like it if you could only let them know. And I think, look, in one way I think social media has probably narrowed people's focus enormously on being innovative, and in another way it provides such an amazing potential. So I think there's, for me I think there's some more interesting journeys outside social media, but you need social media to be involved, and I think business will be, I do think there's now a market coming up of people that know, yes, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook and I've got this and this and my website, but I think that's not quite personal enough for where people want to go. And so I think there needs to be, if you're running a business now, And I'm working in a couple of communities that are so remote. I've just come back from 6 weeks in Fitzroy Crossing, and talk about you've got to be innovative. You can't find anything up there, and you're going to try and build work with people and build a fashion, fashion sector in a place where you actually can't get everyone to meet at the same spot. And I think, so innovation for me, and I think if any of you are sitting there thinking, what will I do? Don't look at normal, the standard options might be your blind spot. So probably try and say, well, if everyone's going on that road, what other track is coming along down the side there that I could trial that doesn't cost you anything? And it's exactly your point too, that I think that it was, your innovation is because you have to produce something and you want to be efficient. So don't swim in the same lane at the same swimming pool all the time. I personally think that can be much, much harder, especially if you've got a really interesting product and things like that, everyone here has. So, yeah.
Thanks. One of the things that how I see innovation is there's the idea, however you come across the idea and you work out whether it's an idea that you want to run with or not. Then there's a huge amount of work in turning that idea into a business or putting it into your business or whatever. And at the end, because it's a business and because you need to feed yourself or your family or whatever, you need to make money at the end of the day in some form or other. So the ideas and a lot of the great stories about how how you got into the situations that started off your businesses. What about the hard work part of innovation and of turning that idea into something that can create money? Cassandra, how's that journey been? Or how's it going?
We're not creating money yet, so we'll give you that disillusion. But no, I don't know for you, Lou, but for us, I think it's actually we work incredibly hard and I very rarely have a day off, but I also think the important thing, which is maybe an innovation in my life, is to not labour over these innovative ideas too much, just to do them and just quickly do them and try them, and if they don't work, abandon them. But I think that's definitely for us in the last year of changing our business and trying different things in our marketing approaches, and just have a light touch and don't take it too seriously and just try it. Because if you plan and plan, obviously we should have done more planning before we started the business, but now that we're in it, I think if you overanalyze and overplan, you're never going to try anything new and you're never going to innovate. So I feel like, just having a lighter touch and just trying it, and we seem to sort of just be doing things much more quickly and much more efficiently if we don't stress too much about them, and they're creating better outcomes for us, it seems. I mean, we don't have such a track record with this new model yet to be able to be analytical about it, but that's my intuition, I think.
So I'm going to interrupt you because you were chatting outside earlier, and these guys were just saying how much more expensive it was when they were in the more mainstream sort of flight path, and how by cutting everything back down to just your bare necessities, you're actually making much more progress. So
and just us as well. We did experiment with employees in the beginning of our business, and I actually think it hindered our growth, and I think that definitely we need to have some again sometime soon, but I think the last year and a half that it's been just us, and no interns, nothing, literally just us, it's actually been very, very valuable because the conversations that we have now are much more open, and I think in terms of innovation, it allows that because there's just you. So I don't know, you guys who have enormous businesses.
Don't worry. So I just recall in the infant stage there was only 4 of us, and creativity was what it was all about, and you couldn't sort of hold that back. And when you have too many other distractions coming around you, it does hold you back. And I do recall my forte in the business back then was denim development. So all the denim finishes, all the stone washing, all the different colours, distressing, whatever it might be, that was what I did for the business. Do very little of it now. And I just recall the passion that we had and the creativity that we weren't held back. So we'd be there on a Saturday, Sunday, my brother, who was part of the design team back then, so don't like that, and I'd get upset. Being proud of what I do, it's just the way it is. So, but what it actually did, it drove me to be more innovative. So it's emotional and it's passionate. And if you don't have that in you, it's difficult to sort of take it to that next level. And even up until about a year or two, I still get involved in the laundry and the denim finishes. I just don't do it myself. But I have a team on there every day, working with them, giving them ideas, and just being a mentor or inspire them to get them excited because they're passionate and you just got to keep that passion going.
I just think you're going to be more right about not flogging the horse, like know when you've got to change, so keep your business really nimble as well. So there's people who know me, but I'm a massive planner. I love a plan, I love a schedule, but it's my little micro every day. Like, I know I've got to get this sample done, I know I've got this appointment, but my bigger overall plan is much more flexible, so I can do that. Just turn on a dime, get a new product out, meet a customer need. Talking about, I just accidentally opened a shop, and like in that it's been about a month and a half now, and in that first month I've suddenly gone, I need a different style of product in the market that I've suddenly stumbled into, and I'll have that out in a week or two. So allow your business to be driven by your customers, keep that passion in there, and just keep it really nimble, I think is what innovation is for me.
So you have to say how you accidentally opened a shop.
Well, I used to have this beautiful studio out in my country house, and for a million reasons my partner and I had to move back to the city, and I was like, if I have to leave this beautiful studio, I want somewhere just as gorgeous in Melbourne. And talking to these guys as well, it's hard to find a studio in Melbourne where they're going to let someone use punches and stinky glues and hammers. Making bags is not a pretty or delicate thing. So it was just taking me months, and I stumbled across this beautiful store with big black glossy doors on Burwood Road, and I think 2 weeks later I signed a lease for a shop. So it was a complete accident, I wasn't prepared, I think you were going to talk about this a bit later, so I hadn't researched the customer in that area, I didn't know anything about it, I just lived together at school. Yeah, totally. It was nice. It felt right, and I can't even imagine how many in that month and a half new customers have walked in and go, oh my god, I didn't know people did this. I didn't know people like bags and bought something and love it. So you need to take those chances, and you can then kind of get innovative when it happens, when you've got to make it work.
Can-do attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Yeah, the classic thing is learning from your failures. What are some of the ways that you guys have failed, and what are the key learnings that you've had from that?
Thinking you can take on the world. That's probably the biggest one, but I guess that's a good driver as well. I think everyone's got the opportunity to do so, but it's just the way you go about it, and I think you've just got to be ready for it and making sure your risk mitigation and whatever plans you've got are all sound, otherwise it could hurt quite a bit. And I think that's probably the biggest learning I've had.
Can you give more information? Or?
Yeah, I mean we started exporting in 2006 over to the US, UK, Scandinavia, and it got to the point where it was 25% of our business. Now in 2008, 2009, as we all know, GFC came along, and then everything pretty much stopped. So I had to pull everything back in, and it was tough times back then. So it's just about being prepared of how to ensure that you can sustain a business regardless of what happens. So they're the biggest challenges. So the bigger you grow, the harder you're going to fall. So you just got to be prepared.
Anyone else?
Sarah? I think, having a tiny business like this it sometimes just feels like one little failure after another, like you're just stumbling from one disaster to the next one. And I was quite a large box of bags in the back of my garage, referred to as the dogs. So there's that kind of very physical failure, the ones that I don't even let them out of the box to kind of throw them out. But there's also ones where I think my biggest failures have been where I haven't trusted myself and I suppose everyone in small business will find this, that there's a lot of people saying, you should do it this way, you've got to do it this way, this is how fashion works, and it's when I just follow that and go, this is the way I'm going to do it, then those failures have happened, and I've had big expensive PR failures and those kind of things. So it's made me kind of trust myself maybe a little bit more and just take a step back from all that advice and really nitpick what is actually going to work for my business, not just this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I think the same thing for us is like just trusting those initial intuition, because it is the reason you've got that strong intuition. And I think the other thing from my point of view is like making sure the people that are around you, if you are going to bring them in, are really on board with your culture and understand what you're trying to do. And it's hard when you start a business because you don't necessarily know how to articulate what you're trying to do, for us anyway. And so I think we probably made a few wrong decisions in terms of people we gave lots of money to do things for us that didn't really understand the values, and maybe that was our fault for not articulating them. But I think, I wouldn't actually consider them failures because you learn so much from that. But still, like, an experience definitely. It's funny that you say that you have a few dogs. I remember meeting with a fashion agent once telling me, she was saying you have to design a few dogs into the collection so people will buy the nice ones next to it. It's like, well, yeah, it's a really good concept. But yeah, I think, I feel like I fail every day in the studio on a practical level of and designing and making, but that's also why, as I say to my students, it's called a design process because you're going to go through it. So I don't really count those as failures either. I think that's just life.
I was trying to think, I probably haven't thought of failure, so as I just said quite under my breath, I think failure drives innovation. So maybe failure, it's probably more disaster than failure. So it's probably, I don't think it's more, probably a disaster, but Chris and I'd always look at each other and say no one's died. So you think on we go. I don't know about failure. I think it was more a point that was made earlier that when you saw the writing on the wall, it was time to be flexible. That's probably more. So if something was, for a while there we had party plan going, which was great because it sort of, it was a great way of funding, and we didn't even know what party plan was when we started. Someone said, would you come over and bring your stuff around to our place and I'll get a few friends together, and we said yes, and someone said, oh, that's party plan. Well, anyway, and we sort of fell into it, but there was a point when we were taking orders and then we started dyeing and knitting up fabrics, and you'd be short by 20 shirts for the orders that you had. And the debate was, do you go and re-dye them and keep them going and do blue shirt for a bit longer? And we soon learned that you didn't. You just said sold out and gave the money back and refunded everyone for their deposits. But the fact that that kept happening made us realise that we couldn't control our production in line with the demand, and that we would get burnt with 45 blue shirts left because the extra 12 that we needed were the ones, which is what you guys were talking about. So I guess it wasn't so much failure, but you'd see that the model wasn't working for you, and then you would rework it, and that's when we decided we wouldn't do Pannel anymore. We just thought we needed to do retail instead. So, and that was the point where we had started opening a place 5 days a week so people could come and purchase or swap stuff that they'd ordered through the party plan system. And it was quite big then, so it was quite dramatic overnight to say, look, let's drop party plan, because it was our whole business, and do retail. But, but we did. And everyone thought it was a bit like your shop. We stood in the footpath, we'd driven all around Melbourne looking for a cheap shop, and we were up the back of a laneway up in Mailing Road in Canterbury, at the back of someone's shop, and went down on the footpath, and Chris said, God, if only we could get a bloody shop around here, it'd be so much easier. And we were just looking across the road, and this this jeweller's putting a for lease sign in the window, and we thought, let's go over there right now. So we did, and walked across the road and said, we might take this shop. So, and people just walked in and said, oh, thank God you got a shop, I got sick of those back stairs. So it just seemed to be. So I think that's, again, it's just innovating for what they're...
Well, one of the things that's just going through my mind as you guys have all been talking about this is the self-confidence, or the confidence to follow your intuition, to go just go into a shop, to adjust when change happens. Where does that come from? Would you call yourself confident people? Where does that come from? That the ability to just to go ahead and
naivety.
I guess you need to believe in yourself and believe what you do. When I, in 2009, did an evaluation of the business, at that point in time we were using contractors, for everything that we did. And through the evaluation, it came out that we should take manufacturing and put everything under our own roof. And I told everyone what I wanted to do, and they thought I was crazy. Everyone's going offshore, manufacturing's dying in Australia. Why the hell would you want to do that? So in late 2010 is where I spoke to one of my contractors, and we negotiated. And I decided to take the machinery and all these employees to come under our own roof. And that's when it started. So you need to be a bit crazy and do what you want to do. Because that's where the values and the passion comes from, and it sort of reflects on everything that you put out to market, or present yourself as a brand. So I think you do need to be a bit crazy.
Crazy and have a good accountant maybe as well. Sorry, yes.
I'm excited by risk. I think our partner, Louise's husband and my partner are always saying that we're not afraid of risk. Maybe we should be a little bit more afraid of risk.
Maybe not.
That's okay at the moment when you've got a family who also relying on you. Are you sure? Are you really sure? It becomes quite challenging. So, but it's all working out okay at the moment.
Excellent. So let's move on to engaging with customers. It's been part of all your stories is about making products and delivering in a way that the customer, you've got the customer in mind with the way you're doing those things. So what ways are you, what innovative ways, I guess, to use that word again, are you connecting with your customers? That's the question. Sarah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay, I'll go first. I don't know that I've got a really definitive answer to this, but I think through my years of wholesaling and trying to pretend I was a much bigger business and making it look really sleek and clean on the outside, and like there was 20 people back there shipping things out, I didn't really engage with my customer at all. But when I realised I was really unhappy with that and changed the business to be much smaller and actually started to tell the story of there's a person behind those scenes physically cutting every bag, and usually my hands are a disaster and there's ink and all over them and they're cut up. And when I actually started to tell that story, I found customers started to kind of talk back to me a bit, like engage. And I've certainly noticed in the last month when customers come in and I say, oh yeah, I make most of them. I use a small factory when I'm really busy. But suddenly they are so excited by my story and who I am. And it's kind of, I suppose what I'm trying to say is, when I made it more real and I made it much smaller, it actually became much more engaging. I stopped pretending I was something that I wasn't. And I was authentic about it.
And that's a challenge in our end. When you're small, we still product lines. So all the retailers would have it in our laundry or our manufacturing, so it would actually showcase of what we do. So that your David Jones, Cell Systems, or your Glue, wherever it might be, they come in. So they can actually get a feel of what goes on. Now as we've grown, it's becoming harder and harder. So the way we actually communicate that is through videos now. So we create motion videos which describes what we do. Now we're in the process of upgrading the latest one, or the last one. So and that'll give an indication of what, how real we are. We need to be real to ourselves. And you've got to work out different channels to actually communicate that. And that's through your staff, educating your staff. That's another way of doing it. So we've got sales assistants agents all around Australia. So they're equipped through knowledge of how we do things and why they're with us. So they're able to communicate that through training the staff on the floor, or through the digital communication that we have. So you just got to identify how you interpret and communicate your values and what your brand stands for through those different channels.
I definitely agree with all of that. And the other thing that Chris and I used to always say is, probably because we started at markets, where you have very much one-on-one conversations with people. I always say that probably the best advice I've got from, actually it was Chris's mother, through Chris, was, if you're not interested, you're not interesting. So, and that is how we approached all our marketing. So if we weren't interested in what our customers were interested in, we weren't going to be interesting to them. And that's still, it's a case of, could you go and sit on a bar stool with them at a bar and chat, and they'd like what you did, and you'd like them. You'd be friends. You could make friends with them. So I think one of the biggest traps is to think there's customers out there, in inverted commas, and think that they'll be interested in you. So I guess it's the conversation of how you talking or selling or approaching. I love your chat there, Sarah. That's so true. You can tell someone, I was up all night trying to set the last button on this thing. It's fine. Actually, someone probably just connected with you and thought, I'll buy it then. So I think that's really important, that you are interested in people. If you're just making something to sell to them, I just don't know why they'd be interested in you. So just keep that in the back of your mind with whatever you're doing and what you're making. And I think that keeps you pretty, it brings you back to sanity and also to reality when you're getting a bit highfalutin with all your grand ideas. So it keeps it very real.
Yeah, we had just a reflection on that. We had a Possible spoke at one of our events last week, and Bron Belcher from Possible, and she was saying how the story is, for all the campaigns that Possible does, the story, the ones where the story, the personal stories come through are the ones that are the most successful. And she also made the point that in the social media around the different campaigns, it was 80-20 rule, around about 80 is what you're saying, Jen, is talk about what you're interested in and not about yourself, but about what you're interested in, people that you think are interesting, and people respond much more to that. What about chorus?
I think at the moment we used to have a shopping studio, which really helped with that, and we had a lot of people interested in seeing the studio because it was all there in one space, and actually seeing us making and Cass doing what she does in there. So that was really good. At the moment we don't have that, so we're communicating, and we're definitely missing it. We're communicating to our newsletter. Most of our customers are return customers, and they've taken really well to our new business model. We take, we can do appointments where we bring people into our current workspace, and we've done that a couple of times with some really good repeat customers of ours, and they've been fine about the fact that we're not working out of a highly professional space at the moment, and I guess we're just trying to build those relationships, get their measurements on file, be able to make that jacket completely fit them, and work in that kind of way.
And I think for us as well, and it's an interesting thing working with Lou, who wasn't from a fashion making background, in that there's so much that goes on to create a product, like so much attention and effort and work and detail goes into just getting one product. I trialed everything 5 times, and so we are trying through the digital means of our social media accounts and our emails and things like that to help to engage our clients more with that process, so that they know the reason that jacket's $500 is because why, and then I think that being able to talk with our customers, and one of the good things about offering the customization is someone you don't know orders, you go, okay, notice you've ordered that size, but can you give me your exact measurements? And then you start a dialogue with them, and they find that amazing, but you have then cut the pattern to fit them. And I think that the relationship you establish with them is stronger because you've added a little bit of a human to the digital interface. So it's very new for us, and we're trying to figure out the system, but I think the most important thing for us will be that balance between digital communication and I'm a real person on the other end, and this is not an automated email, this is Cassandra who is going to cut out your pants. So I think that's what we're working on.
And this is part of what you're doing with your PhD.
A little bit, yeah, definitely, it's coming through, yeah.
So Cassandra's doing you're partway through a PhD in social
It's
social
about,
media.
it's kind of about, it's a practice-based PhD, and it's about the effects of social media on micro fashion practice. So kind of investigating, because I feel like the age I am, I was born kind of pre-internet, and then I worked in a lot of other small businesses where it didn't exist, the web platforms, but you had a holding page that, you know, that was your website, to this new model where everything is supposedly open. And like you said, apparently you can start a brand by having an Instagram account and a website, and off you go. So for me, it's been a huge, interesting curve to be part of businesses that were pre that and post that.
Yeah.
And obviously super interesting from a research perspective. Yeah.
So for Nobody and the Ark, so those businesses were around before social media. Yeah, Nobody.
Not that old yet.
You don't have to be that old. How would you describe the difference in the relationship with your customers now to then?
The principle's the same.
Yeah.
It's all about the experience. And it's the experience that you deliver to the consumer. It's just different channels and different tools today. But at the end of the day, their emotions is what counts. And if they gain the experience that they want, then you've achieved. And we set out to them. Before it was just one-on-one. That's what Jenny said. It was being able to interact with the consumer. Now you've just multiple channels to actually get there and to get feedback and see how they respond and was their experience great. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's all about the experience.
It can be confusing as well, because 100 likes on an image doesn't actually mean 100 sales. It means absolutely nothing almost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly right.
even though it's an exciting opportunity, it's very interesting to
But I think that's where you need to actually dig in deeper and see what it means and see what interaction you get with those ambassadors.
How about with the Ark?
Yeah, the Ark, it was like, dragging two kids kicking into the thing. But I think, again, for us, it was, we found it a little bit, I still find it a bit shallow, probably social media. And it's that mess that you're talking about. It's that sort of, you get sort of sucked in, and then things like Facebook start adding value and charging, and then Instagram starts showing. You think, God, we're just getting sucked into the vortex here. But you can't do without it. But for us, that was where probably the social enterprise, having other things that build alongside the business, so that if you were going to use a fabric, and someone drew the design for it, and they had an interesting story, and maybe we had necklaces made somewhere, by someone that was recycling computers from Mexico or something. It was really adding. What we found is that because people are intelligent, it's quite nice to not just be a fashion label. So it's quite nice to add value to your label because you're interested in other things in the world as well. And I think we found that quite a key, that was quite a key plus, because we were mothers and kids and things were happening and tragedies that happened with staff and different things, and you suddenly sort of realised that you needed to connect on a much more broader level. So I guess that's where for us that's sort of starting to hook in and help other people's journeys by also being able to promote them. by default ended up in making us much more interesting and people more interested in what we did. So yeah, so it's sort of be your soul, I guess. And if you have other interests, I think of the Collective actually, you know, that magazine, the magazine, and she's very good at building what her likes and dislikes are into a personality in a culture in a magazine where she's really just printing articles from other people. But they're really interesting because you get the feel of why she's interested in them, and I think that's the sort of subtlety of the success of your marketing, is not to be bland and just think you've got some great shots. So I'd say look around, and if you love eating, I don't mean, you know, publish what you're cooking for breakfast in the morning, but you know, if you like eating something, you found out that somewhere where you bought something in the morning was made by someone that had a grandmother that came from overseas from somewhere else, well, you know, that's quite interesting. What else is there about them that might, you know, work? So that's where I think the social media avenues tend to make you feel like you've got to compete against other social media avenues, where in actual fact your product is not a social media avenue. So just be really wary of that, yeah.
And how much time you spend image making instead of product making. Like we spend so much time image making, and that's particularly since we've moved our business into the more digital space and we don't have that shop front, it's become even more important that the images communicate.
Can you speak up? Sorry, I can't see you.
Got this on.
Can you just repeat what you said?
I was saying that we spend a lot of time image making now, and that we've moved our business online primarily, and you know, that balance between product making and image making and how important that is to a business, and getting the images right, but then also not sacrificing all the other business development tasks that you have and product development tasks for the sake of image making. That social media lures you into that, because when you get a good image, you get a good response on social media. So yeah, and I would totally agree in terms of the storytelling. We've always, from the beginning of our business, worked collaboratively with other designers, whether they be a print designer or even a musician or an artist in some way in our design process. And we definitely didn't take advantage of that at the beginning. We didn't realise how strong that was. We didn't consider it marketing. I just considered it my way of avoiding the cyclical boredom of the fashion industry, coming from working for labels who I thought were super innovative, and they were even suffering from cyclical boredom, so I kind of injected that into the business so that I would not get bored. But since we realised, like, wow, that's an amazing storytelling platform, and it's so much more enjoyable when you work with other people and you are involved in other people's lives, for us anyway.
So I'd like to move on to the topic of ethical products and sustainable products, and I guess there's been a lot of, I think there's a lot of history of companies that have been producing their goods that way. But what is that history, and what are the things that are happening over the last sort of decade, I guess, or a few years even, that's been innovating in that part of the businesses that you maybe Jem, with the art.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know how you get ethical and sustainable out of fashion, sorry. So I think we get better. I don't know about you, Dave, but it's pretty hard. I mean, organic cotton is not as great necessarily as, commercially produced cotton. So, the processes and the everything, there's just, what I'd love to see is much better recycling of what has been used in fashion. We've got better dyes for sure, and certainly banning azo dyes, which I don't know if Australia has yet, have they? Or they might have, but have they? They have, finally. Last place in the world. I don't know. But it is pretty hard. I think you're kidding yourself a little bit. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
What is it?
I think, if you have some background in textile production, you'll know that organic cotton doesn't necessarily, like some closed-loop synthetics are better for the environment than organic cotton, but then where do they end up? So, I have this conversation very often with my students, and I think there's a lot of companies out there with big marketing spin around how they're sustainable, and I don't know if they necessarily are. Some definitely are, and I mean, from an ethical point of view, that's why we produce locally, because we don't have the resources to produce offshore and monitor it in the way we would like. So, you know, we know our makers personally, and at the stage, and the tiny stage of our business, that's the best we can do, I think, in terms of ethics, is knowing who sews them and makes them, and, you know, 50% of the time that's also me, so whether I'm treating myself ethically, I do not know. But I think it is very important, and I think that the kind of millennial generation, not that there are, you know, core customer, but they are more and more interested in it, and so I think you can't, as a fashion business, ignore it. I think you're kidding yourself if you want to ignore it, particularly in the high-end kind of niche market where you're trying to connect with someone. I mean, emotion, you've mentioned it a few times, John, like that's why people buy our clothes. It's nothing to do with practicality, so you have to know their values and tap into their emotions to be able to sell them your story or your product. So I think, yeah, it is important for us as citizens of the world as well to think about what we're doing, and that was one of the biggest motivators in not making stock anymore, because we were like, that's where we're wasting time, energy, physical resources, and, you know, to have to sell something for $20 at a designer sale was so demoralising, and you know, what value does the consumer put into something that they've paid $20 for? Nothing, you know, they're like, it sits in the bottom, that's that silly thing I bought at the Magic Designer sale. So I think, yeah, for us it's about trying to embed that into the product by, I don't know, scarcity and things like that. I don't know. We're still just figuring that out.
Well, if I take my question asker hat off and have an opinion on that, well, I think what I'm hearing you both say is that you're kind of limited a little bit by what you can get and what you have to work with. And I think that's why, from an industry-wide perspective, is that we need to be working to change what is available.
Yes,
and
totally.
I met last week, I think the week before, a cotton farmer who was from a long sort of tradition of cotton farming family out in Queensland, and she was working with a few other people to try and trace cotton through the supply chain, so that their cotton that they're producing actually ended up in a textile at the end of the day. And they've done it. They showed me a little tiny piece of fabric, and you know, that's not solving the problem, but it's a part of the way through it. And those things, that if those issues are understood and can be dealt with on a bigger scale, that gives you guys something more to work with. But I mean, it's such a strong. You've mentioned the trend from consumers, and there's innovation coming through. Been around for a while now. The names escape me a second, but the apps that you can use to check where something's come from, and traceability. Someone mentioned. What do you see? How do you see that coming into your businesses, and how are you dealing with that?
It's not new. I mean, this is global standards we're talking about, global ethics, global sustainability. It's the way of the future, and you need to adapt to that. It is driving how you do business today. It's actually giving consumers transparency. People want to know what's happening. People want to know, where does that come from? How was it made? What it consists of. I remember my daughter doing a project in grade 2. Now she's 14, so she was 6, 7 back then. And she did a project on sustainability in grade 2. So the kids are being taught of what sustainability means and what ethical means. So it is here to stay, and it's not going anywhere. It's not going to change overnight, but collectively it will change, and it'll start shifting in the right direction and start moulding where it needs to be. It's going to take time. So that's
I think the ethical's on the right road, isn't it? You know, there's ethical labour sort of sources and that sort of, as you say, those chains, Dave. I think that's something that is been, you know, getting better and better, definitely. It's probably the general ideal of consumerism, which is why I love the chorus idea, where you're getting the choice of design and you're getting it, you know, you're really minimising your wastage. And I think that's, you know, that's definitely the half. I think just everybody is probably, I think the days of mass consumerism are largely gone, but there's some companies out there still working on that profile for their strategic vision. But yeah, so I think that is, but the ethical side of it, I think, is being well covered.
Yeah, there's a fantastic podcast from, which is it from, on Makers Row in the US?
American Fashion Podcast?
American Fashion Podcast.
Makers Row, it was a particular one, Makers Row was speaking.
Yeah, so Makers Row in the US, if you haven't heard about it, it's basically linking fashion companies with making in the US. And one of the points that the woman makes, one of the founders of Makers Row, was that exactly that the mass manufacturing is kind of on its way out, and because now manufacturing can be flexible enough to do that, so we get rid of all that huge amount of wastage. I've got a few more questions, but I thought it'd be a good time to open it up if there are any questions that people have on anything really around this topic, or even a bit broader. Any questions for me? Or just put your hand up, and if you say where you're from, and we'll have a microphone, your name and where you're from as well.
Hi, I'm Monica. I'm just starting up a small children's couture business, and I'm trying to make everything myself at the moment, which has been challenging. But what I really struggle with is that when you find something innovative and interesting around the world for a small scale business, it's extremely difficult to get it down to Australia, and no one's really interested in sending any amounts of interesting fabric or pieces that are only less than 5,000 or 10,000 metres. Now, how do you deal with that at the beginning of your business when you want to be interesting, when you want to offer something different than everyone else is? But it's really hard to access it for someone so small, and basically it's pretty difficult to source to Australia, things that are really, really achievable. Even so, I used to live in Europe, and wherever you would go, you can get small manufacturers and people making and doing things, and it's pretty tricky getting that, and I was wondering how you deal with that at a small scale level of business.
We buy fabric from overseas, from Japan and Turkey. It's a matter of just finding the right suppliers. We've managed to find suppliers that give us 100 metres, so for small runs. There are quite a few suppliers out there which have minimums of 3,000, 5,000 yards. It's just finding the right one. They're out there, it's just, you need to find them.
We used to have that same problem, but we used to order but we used to order sample fabric, and it was a great way of getting around that. So you could get up to 100 metres of sample fabric, and then you'd commit to the main order. So that's how we used to get around that. It meant you had to sell only enough for 100 metres, but you might be able to work that system. With some people, look, that's where the innovation comes in, because I think you'll end up getting a young designer to design something you love and get it printed here locally, and you'll end up, that's the cycle that you'll just find. That's the only way you can do it, because you want something different and you know what you want. But I'd say you're going to be on the flight path of doing it, you know, probably designing it, getting it done here. And it just makes your price higher, but the best thing is you've got a great story about why, and then you end up being quite flexible, and you can get young textile artists who go and look, it's surprising, you know, some kid will draw something on a serviette one day and you'll just copy that and think it was fantastic. So I think don't bash your head against a wall on that. It was hard for us too. We used to hopefully, you know, wait for the day we got big enough that we could order a 500 metre order so we could get an order from overseas. I remember the day we did it, it was hysterical. But you know, you will be bashing your head against a wall. So just innovate within Australia. You'll find it will be much better, and then you'll find you can ship it off to offshore. You know, sell it overseas as an Australian design. So yeah, go that way.
I couldn't agree more. This is where you get really innovative, and I used a really core group of leathers that I love, and I'm just about to start printing again to make those look different from everyone else. Or for me, it's also the embellishment part of it that works, the very handmade. You know, I'm obsessed with tassels, so everything has those, and it's what makes that basic cowhide suddenly look like something special. So it's all in your design, I think.
I think that's the same for us. We really focus on cut and design through the things that we can control. So we make sure that the innovation and the point of difference is in the construction of the garment, because we can only access certain amount of fabrics, and then we work with local textile designers. Like the one I'm wearing now is a local designer printed here, and you know, really it ends up being, yes, more expensive, but if you're a small brand, when every time we do the cost breakdown all the time about printing offshore, and it will end up the same as printing here in the types of minimums we're looking at. So it's just about working with what you have and just having to accept that as well, because if you start, I also worked in Europe and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been to all the big fabric fairs, and all the time I'm hitting my head against the wall about the fabrics that are available easily within the scale of our business. But and again, we set up good relationships with suppliers that we repeat the cloth, so don't be afraid to repeat. Like, no one will notice if you change the cut that it's the same cloth. If anything, they'll love that it's the same cloth because they've worn it, their previous item, because they trust it. So don't be afraid to bring things back in new innovative ways, and that's how you can also get around. You know, be smart, you pick a cloth and use it across 7 styles instead of 1 style, and then you can get your units up.
Who was the next question?
Hi, my name's Belinda Allison. I'm looking at starting a range, and I'm also studying at RMIT. My question's for Jenny. I think she has the secret. How do you start such an awesome organisation with $200 and no borrowing?
Well, you put the kids to bed and you sew very hard all night. I don't know. We do. It was at market, so we just used to drive down to the Flinders Market, and then we used to, it grew from there. And then, as I say, the party plan thing, growth came out of someone saying, "Will you come to our house? Because I've got friends that can never get down here to see your stuff, and would you?" We used to sell, and then we'd keep some for ourselves and put the money that we made back into buying the fabric. And Party Plan was actually fantastic. I think it should probably have a rebirth, because it was. Is it just coming again? Yeah, I'm not surprised, because what happens is you take orders, which is what you guys have worked out your cash flow. So instead of borrowing money to make your range, you're really just sewing one of everything, showing it, which these guys are doing. I think it's a really smart business strategy when your cash flow's tight. And then people pay deposits. So with that deposit, we used to go and buy the fabric and then sew the stuff. And then, of course, when you delivered it, you got paid the bulk. And that became your cash flow for building your business to the next level. So, and you probably don't really earn a salary for 10 years, you're not effectively.
There you go.
But it's about that. So, but the lovely thing is you go to sleep every night. So because your hassles are only that the red wasn't the right colour or something else, but at least you know that your money. We always look. We were 2 housewives, if you like, and mums, and the idea is that if anyone got sick or had a car accident or cancer or something, we could stop and pay off everybody we owed money to and get on with our lives. And we just didn't change that from the day we started. So if we thought we'd love to do this, we think, well, we're just going to have to wait till we've got some money to do that. But inevitably that would lead us down a slightly different flight path that would probably be quite handy. So I really love what these guys are doing. I reckon you're just going to find it'll go somewhere really interesting, because you're really just trying it and you're listening to what your feedback is, and then you're building it up. I just think it's really great. So yeah.
Should we somebody behind you?
Hi, my name's Gemma. My designs, I've got a small label called Development and Back, and essentially what I'm trying to do is commuter, like cycle commuter designs. And I'm having a conversation with a mentor about margins and doing all of my spreadsheets, and she's trying to encourage me to charge more for my garments, but I don't want to because I'm trying to make an accessible design. And I'm also trying to start a new relationship with people, so I don't want to, be something that people consider engaging with, but don't because of cost. And I just wanted to ask how your strategies have changed over time, whether your margins have changed, and whether where you got your information from.
I would say trust the advisor. Yep, Karen actually told me to put my prices up the first time I met her. She, I would say trust that advisor, because really you're in a niche. Are you making in Australia? And you're in a niche. People who want that will pay what it needs to be, and you need to build that margin. And we still are working ours out. Like, I don't definitely have a secret to this at all. We probably could learn a lot from other people on the panel about this, but I don't shortchange yourself, because there's no flexibility in your business model if you do that. And we've had to creep our margins up, or our prices up, with the change of business model, because we're completely, we have to cost everything on what it would cost if we get one order now. So it has changed our approach to that, but I really feel like any advice you're getting, I think that sounds pretty sound. I don't know what you guys think. Like more experience than me.
Sorry, first thing I want to say, you were saying that you're trying to build relationships with your buyers and your customers. It's extremely hard to retrain them later on when you need to raise your prices. So, yeah, you need to charge the price that your product is worth.
I think that's exactly right. It's the reality of, are you going to survive in the market? Well, you might as well find out on day one instead of after 12 months and be, $20,000 down the Googler. So, and just working with, I've worked with a couple of startups with the costings. Sometimes having to make the price what it has to be makes you get much sharper about what your design elements have to be. So you might be making something and you're looking at it thinking, maybe it should be $129, but really it should be $159 for you to get the margin. So you might have to go back and look at it again and think, so what will I do to make this so that it's valued for $159? So don't think of it as, I want to be accessible, because your best way of being accessible is to go to a market and do you sell it at this price, that's fine. What you're really trying to say is that I'm making a product I want people to buy. So you might just need to create one more interesting factor to it, or do something interesting to it. So pitch at what they're, if you're nervous about putting the price in, and I know we used to think, no one's going to pay more than $129 for a shirt, and let's say, and then Target would have a shirt for $29.99. You're thinking, oh God, where are we ever going to win here? So, but you've just got to keep looking back at your product. Make yourself look at it as though if you saw that product and something else next to it for that price, because you're comparing it to something else, what are you going to do to it? It actually falls back on the design, I think. And then just be confident, because you're absolutely right. If that's what it's got to be, you've just got to make it. Otherwise you'll be broke.
I guess the other thing you've got to consider is your distribution model. Not today, but in 3 to 5 years' time. And if something that you want to do is wholesale, then that model needs to change altogether. And you've got to really be careful with that. It's great doing online, but as you grow, things change, demand changes, and I'm not sure, I'll give an example. David Jones come in and say, I want to take on your product. You go, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, by the way, we take X, Y, and Z. Then you're going to go, what's this for me? Oh, yeah, I'll do it anyway. And that's when you fall into trouble. So it's really important to understand the distribution model and understand what your capabilities are and your capacity, and work backwards from that.
Yeah, I was talking to someone, an experienced woman from the fashion industry up in Queensland recently, and she was in a group of people that the same question came up, and she said one of the problems that we have here, all of us, is that we're not bold enough in our pricing. We need to be more bold, and basically the same sentiment that everyone here says is people, people will find your product and they'll pay the right price for it. But we always, I think here, perhaps in Australia more than in other places, sort of feel like we have to sort of accommodate people a little bit more.
Even in Melbourne versus Sydney, like when we do our price comparisons, even Melbourne versus Sydney, like if you, like in the market level that we're in and we do any kind of competitive pricing analysis, the Sydney designers are way bolder in what they charge than the Melbourne designers even, so I think, just...
And think about what people are spending on their bikes as well.
Yeah, totally.
Compared to the
and I think also it's niche, so, you know, you shouldn't be cheap in a niche market. I mean,
Not that you shouldn't be cheap, but I think you are a niche market, so then make it so that people, as Dave said, spend a lot of money in that area. You know, they'll get a real buzz out of it if it's a little bit more expensive, but they like what it has about it. It actually confirms that they should have paid the price they paid. In their minds, they'll be satisfied.
Any other questions? Yeah, at the back.
Hi, I'm Ara from Soldol Rana. So I have a question for the chorus ladies. So you did the customised orders. Do you take 100% of the money right at the beginning?
Yes.
Okay. And then what happens?
Yes.
And then what happens if something's at fault? I don't know.
We make it again at our cost.
Right. Okay.
So if it's the wrong size, and that's why we're going down that avenue of made to measuring, like I mentioned before with the emails, you ordered a size 8, what are your measurements? To try and troubleshoot that. But I don't have a recipe to give you yet, we haven't figured it out. It's definitely a teething problem with the new model. But yes, 100% deposit, because in the market that when people change their minds every 5 seconds and they won't worry about losing a deposit, even if you say we're going to keep your deposit, they will say we don't care if you've ordered the fabric or whatever, or they'll ask for the deposit back because it's consumer-led market. So I would say, yeah, always 100%, and then we try our very, very best to make a special product that fits them perfectly that they're happy with. And yeah, if we have to make it twice or change it for a different style, we just do that. Yeah, part of our customer service, I suppose.
And then my other question for all of you, I guess, is how do you work around children and family life and building a business?
I go home and my kids go to my wife, so it works for me.
The question wasn't for you, Louise, you've got 2 kids under 4?
Yeah, I've got a 4-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, both who I gave birth to since we started the business, so yeah, it's just very tough, I guess. I've got a very supportive husband who, has been supportive and put up with me, and had very good family that have looked after my children, but also, I pay for childcare but don't earn a wage, so that's difficult. So I guess just like anything, sacrifice, you go without. Like, I don't go on holidays, I don't have new shoes, you just do what you've got to do. That's what I wanted to do. I've gone back to work, paid work, in the middle of doing all of this as well, and it just wasn't what I wanted to do. It didn't satisfy me, didn't make me happy, so it's just about, trying to make this work. Yeah.
Planning and stuff for the day?
I'm a big planner. So at the moment I've got 2 days that I can work on chorus, and then all the other chunks of time in and around that. So just the girls, fortunately, the good thing about having them close together, they're best buddies and they're really good at playing with each other together now. So I find that I can do things at home, but also I work at night and they go to bed and on the weekends.
And Louise is so much more efficient than me, and I think my hat's off to anyone who has children. I think it must make you way more efficient. Like, I waste so much time all the time. Lou doesn't waste time. Lou just does things, and I think it's fantastic for me to have her in the business because of that.
Jen as well with you go through the whole.
I know. Well,
They become quite good employees when they get older.
They do give good.
You can bribe them. There's a lot of jelly beans, I remember, but Look, I think, for Chris and I, we had the kids together, so it just was joint playgroup stuff, and it's full on, without a doubt. So nights are your work time, a lot more, and but again, I suppose we wanted to make sure that we were always there for. I think we were sort of the working mothers, and other mothers were too busy to get to concerts, but we made sure we were there and things. So I think just do it so that it does week for everyone. And there's the worst time, of course, is when they're sick, and it sort of throws spanners, which you'd be in the middle of, Lou, wouldn't you? So everything's right for childcare until someone's crook, and then that gets stuffed up. But if you work from home, we work at home, and we've always, the kids are in playpens in the shop. You just had to go with the flow, really. And it's I don't know. I asked them the other day, they're 29 and 30 now. I asked them the other day and said, are you that I sort of always half concentrating and half distracted and things, and what was it? It was a bit weird, and sewing machines or something was happening at night, and they said, oh God, it was fabulous because you just didn't pay us too much attention, so we were going to do that. So they were really happy, and they said it was so nice that you were always, because fashion, you have to tend to keep up with what's happening and things, not so much to be cool or anything, but it just means that you have to be alert. And they said they always liked that. So it turned out all right, but so don't worry about it really. I think there's that stress, but it's more that, oh God, I'm supposed to be at the photo shoot, and the school's run and they've fallen off the monkey bar or something and they need their arm put in plaster. But usually there's someone around that'll go and get them, and then you've got that ahead of you, Luke.
Question down at the front here. So 2 more questions, one here and then one at the back.
I'm Fiona from Melbourne University. So my question is for all the panelists. With the growth of technology and with regards to the important aspects of human touch, what are your thoughts on using bloggers as another channel to market your products?
Is that your thing, blogger? Yeah. Okay, I'll go first. I think it's a fraught relationship that, I did it quite a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and it probably felt a little bit more authentic then, that they were girls that I knew and followed, and I liked their style. And now I think that it's become a really inauthentic relationship, and I think the public can see that. So it's like a little bit of the death of the influencer, maybe.
Yeah, also I think yesterday didn't the American, I don't know what they called it, American Consumer Commission has just passed some legislation because of all the blogger endorsements. So I think we're heading out of that influencer era, and we're already late to the game. We've sort of started having some relationships, but I definitely think it's not an authentic space anymore at all.
No, I get so many emails from bloggers wanting me to give them products. Because that's just unsustainable for business. Like, I give you $700 bags.
And you also can't monetize the return. Like, it's so hard. It's like, well, did those 10 new likes come from that blogger, or did they just come from natural growth? And
is there a sale from them?
Is there any sales? Was it even worth it? So I think if you've got personal relationships that you feel all those bloggers are 100% aligned with the brand values, maybe, but
I think again it's got to feel authentic, and it's got to be a relationship that you want to have for various reasons, not just okay, I'll give them whatever the product is, and hope that I get a sale out of it. I think it's something we've definitely experimented with, but we get to really see any great return or amazing relationships out of that. So we'd rather use work with our own customers and have them be our advocates, and to that end we've just started a bit of a profiles, which again lots of brands have been doing in different ways for a while now. We've just called it Chorus Insights, and we're just meeting up with customers of ours who are also interesting women that we feel our customer base we want to know about, and asking them various questions about their lives, and profiling in that way on our website and social media.
And I think from a designer's perspective, we haven't really spoken much about design today. Like, that's so much more valuable for me to hear what a real customer thinks of wearing my stuff on a daily basis, and knowing that she doesn't like something is more valuable than when they do like something, actually. And then what they can tell their friends, like, I don't know if you checked our email this morning, we had a woman saying, oh, I want that coat that customer wears. Will you make me one? I think it's from 4 collections ago. But like that is so much more valuable. So I think that as when you're a tiny business, yeah, the blogger's your friend maybe, and they're going to have a genuine interest that they genuinely wear your clothes, they genuinely love them, which, yeah, maybe, yeah.
What about Nobody, John?
You're going to throw that one at me. We use quite a few bloggers, and the one thing that we actually do, I mean, they do come through friends or through work. They do become a form of celebrities. I mean, that's just reality. And it's about them creating a community which needs to be aligned to your brand. That's the other thing. So you're not really compromising anything if the blogger is related to your brand and has the values that your brand delivers. So I don't see it as a dirty word or changing or anything like that. I just see us expanding our community through a partnership with the bloggers. That's just one form. I mean, you've got celebrities too, they're the other things. You choose the celebrity that you want to be aligned with. You just can't go and back in the 90s there was Paris Hilton, there was Nicole Richie. I mean, they all had different values, as we all know, and it's up to you who you chose with and align yourself with. We actually aligned ourselves with Beyonce and Rihanna probably 10 years ago. Now, that was a better fit for us. So it's up to us who we decide to.
And you were an international brand, we're talking local, so it's...
even locally, it's about your partners who you decide to align yourself with. If they're a blogger that you want that. Oh, it's just my personal view.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong.
But, yeah. But it's becoming a huge business at the moment.
And so many people wanting to be involved.
Everyone wants to be a blogger, not just bloggers. Not only you.
We've actually run out of time, so I just want to go there. But I think, I mean, some of the themes, the strongest themes I think coming through is authenticity, story, responding to opportunities as they come up, maybe not thinking too much about them, but also planning a little bit for them. So I heard quite a lot of planning actually happens in amongst that. And I think something else that maybe didn't come through so much, but I think it's part of what everyone's story is having people around them and being part of a community with people who understand what you're doing as well. Thanks to the panelists, really appreciate that. And thanks to everybody for coming. I hope it was a worthwhile afternoon. And yeah, I mean, I guess people hang around for a little bit, and if you want to have any more questions, go for it. Thanks very much.